The narrative goes on, with the first ever black president in the US history walking at last into the White House with his wife and two daughters. The first executive order that he signed as president was Lilly Ledbetter's Fair Pay Act 2009. The said act had materialized as a result of a working woman, Lilly Ledbetter's complaint regarding the unfair pay package given to her by her former employers, while her male co-workers were paid far better remuneration for equal amount of work. Obama had learnt about her during his campaign days, giving his word to address the issue of unfair pay so as to ensure parity in the wages of both male and female workers. While going to sign the subject act with her name attached to it, he had invited her to attend this special occasion, and she stood there beside him as he signed and handed the document to her. It was a symbolic victory trophy for all the working women in America, awarded to them on behalf of one woman who herself could not be its beneficiary because the act did not apply retrospectively to the ex-female workers. Deep down the road of the presidency, the worst crisis glaring the country right in its face was not only daunting per se, but it threatened to make life for millions of common people an unending tale of woes. The economy that his administration had inherited from that of his predecessor, George W. Bush, was teetering on the verge of a gaping catastrophe. It could swallow not only the millions of job and house mortgages, but also leave the Wall Street, the banks, and businesses cash-strapped and irredeemably insolvent. Worse still, the situation eluded any quick solution. The events at home and abroad, as well as his encounters with different world leaders, kept adding to Obama's insight on the way the American presidency and international politics play out. His assessment of the members of Senate and those in the House of Representatives gives the reader a vivid picture of the ugly political wheeling and dealing. Every time he wanted to introduce a new law into both these houses, he would have to swallow the bitter pill of either resorting to poor barreling or making some exorbitant concession to those without whose vote the proposed law could never see the light of the day. Some of his sworn opponents in the Republican camp had vowed from day one to obstruct every effort on his part that could address the most pressing issues through lawmaking, only because they wanted to see him fail as the president. Away from these domestic political gambles and squabbles, he came across some pretty interesting and eccentric heads of government from Europe, the Middle East, and South Asia. While admiring the urbanity and political wisdom of German Chancellor Angela Merkel, he doesn't miss to mention the almost amusing manner of the then French President Sarkozy. Similarly, his description of the Saudi king's attempt to give him and his entourage the high-priced gifts, an account of the then Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin's friendly overtures tinged with a tone of grandstanding bring a wry smile to the reader's face.